Um, that's like really, really important. And it's also important that you ask the right question. So it's not just random rambling here and there. You're actually asking the right questions and hopefully you get the right answers as well. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about three major things. I don't need to introduce myself again. My name is Joy. Already. But today's agenda, we're going to talk about um, learning how to learn about effective questioning techniques that can help guide your analysis. Two, to understand business metrics and key performance indicators. Three, to explore a variety of real world business scenarios to support an understanding of questioning and decision making. So, as usual, we're going to start with our icebreaker. So, our icebreaker for this week is, which shege did Nigeria show you this week? So feel free to unmute your mic. Anybody can unmute your mic and you just tell us your name and the shege that Nigeria has showed you this week. So the floor is open. Whoever wants to start can start.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, shoot, Demola. We're listening.
This year should be for us to like within 24 hours.
I'm sorry, Demola, we can't hear you. Demola, are you back? Okay, Demola is not here. Bashira, could you just tell us about your week? Okay, it seems Bashira is not here. So, Rashida, do you want to tell us? Okay, is anyone hearing me? Hi guys. I just want to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Um, so we're starting with an icebreaker, and the icebreaker is basically like which shade did Nigeria show you this week? So you could just talk for like a few minutes. You just introduce yourself and you just talk about Nigeria and how Nigeria has been Nigerian to you this week. So anybody can start really. So Bashira, if you want to start, that's fine.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Lisa, founder of Optometry today. Well, this week I actually traveled from Kano back home, and traveling through the road was really stressful. I think that's one big shaggy that Nigeria has been dealing with us with for the past how many years, and they can't fix that yet.
Well, that is like a normal shiggy for all of us to see. Although like it's not normal, right? Because like other in other countries, like people have like good roads, but like we don't have good roads here. But I'm sure it's not Kaduna. You didn't travel to Kaduna because like the road is better. The road to Kaduna is a lot better. So where did you travel to, Bashira?
Kano to Ogun State.
Ah, problem. Well, that explains why the road was not good. It cannot be good. But I hope you had a safe trip.
Seriously. Yeah, I did. Thank God for that.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so Demola, I'm not sure if you can hear us. Would you like to share your experience with us? Um, so yeah, I think that is also. I would share the shege that Nigeria has shown me in the past few weeks. So there hasn't been light for a while, a long, long while, right? And basically, I've just been revolving my life around how to figure out electricity and all the problems. I think so. I was talking to someone I was close to that basically lives in the US, and I explained to the person that I've not had light for like 2 weeks. The person was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh, this is how bad and this is how much shaggy Nigeria is showing us to the point where like people in the US do not understand what it means that you don't have light for 2 weeks." And the person was asking me like, do you know when the light is going to come back on? Has the electricity company spoken to you? I'm like, electricity company speak to you as in NEPA, abi who's going to talk to you? These people that don't send your daddy. So yeah, but fortunately we have lights now. So let's just pray they don't take it during this what's it called? Boot camp and this meeting. So hopefully Nigeria will not show us another shege this afternoon. Let's hope so. So let me see if there's anybody here at the meeting that wants to join. Well, I guess that's all. So Bashir, I guess it's just like me and you today because the other people can't seem to speak. Someone said like she has issues like with us hearing her. Um, so yeah, that's not exactly exciting.
The same issues too. So I had to like go off and then reconnect again.
Connect again. Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. Hopefully they can also sort it out. Let's hope so. But the lesson is recorded basically, so anybody else can come back to just continue and listen. So next is effective questioning. So based on the outline already, we said that the based on the outline of today's agenda, effective questioning is the first thing we're going to tackle. So basically, effective questioning just helps to interrogate data. Decision makers can gain valuable insights and make informed choices from that drive business growth. So asking the right questions is the foundation of data-driven decision making. Effective questioning techniques enable decision makers to extract meaningful insights from data.
Tracy,
So you don't
Dana,
uh okay. So you don't want to be asking the wrong questions and absolutely unnecessary questions. So for example, you don't want to be asking questions like how many kekes are in BUK? How many kekes are in BUK and the owners of the kekes live around BUK, or the owners of the kekes live around Nasarawa? These are good questions, quite sure, but for the most part, they're rather unnecessary, right? Because like unless you want to do something with the data, what's your business with the number of keke people that are in BUK? Do you understand? Um, so that wouldn't be exactly effective questioning, right? So an example of effective questioning would be something like kekes in Kano Web are banned from driving past 10 p.m. because of the crime rates, and all of that. So an effective question in this situation would be, as keke napeps now have been banned from 10 p.m., has this reduced crime rates? If it has reduced crime rates, in which areas has it reduced crime rates? Or are we just fooling ourselves and this thing has actually not reduced crime rates? Do you understand? So these is like effective question. You're asking the right questions, and that way you can get the right answers, not just random generalized questions like how many kekes are in BUK? What do you want to use the keke to do? Do you understand? So asking like more important questions that can help drive actions is like super important. So the next is strategies on how to ask these right questions. Well, very good. I was just talking about NEPA taking the light, and here they have done it. So you just give me 1 second to set up my screen because I was using like 2 screens previously. So now I can only use 1 screen. So just give me 1 second. So I'm back. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. Bashra, can you see my screen, please?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the first thing is to have an objective. If you want to ask the right question, then you should have an objective. What's your objective? So using the same Keke na Pep examples, if you want to ask questions, you need to know why you are asking these questions in the first place. So the first analogy I gave was the person just asked random questions about the number of kekes in BUK. Why do you need to know that? What is your objective? What is your aim? What do you intend to do after that? But the second analogy where I gave of kekes have been banned, has this actually reduced crime rate? Yes or no? Or is this even impacting other people's businesses negatively instead of helping to fight crime that we're all looking for? So you need to have an objective in mind. So the objective for this, basically like keke investigation could be to understand how the ban of keke napep citizens or people that live in Kano in general. Then the next is to ask open-ended questions. Ask questions that would make you have answers, right? So you don't want to ask questions where the person can say yes or the person can say no. So let me give you an example. If you ask somebody now, what school do you go to? The person would answer, okay, the school I go to is so and so and so and so and so school, right? I go to Bayer University, Kano. But if you ask the person, are you in BUK? The person's answer immediately is no, or yes, I'm in BUK. So for example, I attended Kaduna State University. If somebody comes up to me and asks me, Joe, what school did you attend? I'll say, oh, I attended Kaduna State University. I've given the person an answer. But if the person just comes and asks me, Joy, did you attend BUK? My answer is no. And it ends there, right? Unless the person asks me further, and if the person is annoying, I probably wouldn't answer you. But you should learn to ask open-ended questions from the beginning. Don't ask questions that will give you a yes or no answer. That is like not a great way for you to get information. And the reason why you're doing all of this is so that you can get information to carry out your analysis and to make like very good data-driven decisions. The next step is do not ask leading questions. So an example of a leading question would be somebody coming to meet me and asking me, Joy, are you in 300 level? So this is a leading question because number one, the person has already assumed that number one, I am in a university. That's number one. Then number two, depending on where the person meets me, the person meets me around BUK, just probably because like I live around there, and they're asking me, what level are you in? The person has number one, assumed that I'm in school. Then number two, assume that because he or she saw me around BUK area, now automatically means I'm a student of BUK. Then the third assumption the person also made is that the person assumed that I'm in 300 level. For whatever reason, they just assumed I'm supposed to be in 300 level. So these are assumptions you don't want to be making ahead. You want the person to clarify themselves. So instead of you asking, Joy, are you in 300 level? The right question should be, Joy, are you still in school? Right? And if you're in school, what school? If you are in school, yes, then what level are you in? These are the kind of questions you should ask. You shouldn't make assumptions for the person. So this could be like in an interview or even a survey. You're making people fill a survey and stuff. You don't want to ask leading questions. You don't want to ask questions that assume that people already have knowledge of a particular thing. So you don't want it to be like our secondary schools or universities where the teacher asks, do you understand? Yes. Any questions? No. But when lecturer says, tear out a sheet of paper, we're writing tests, everybody starts panicking. You don't want that kind of situation. So don't ask leading questions. Then the next is to use the 5 whys technique. So the 5 whys technique is not something that's set in stone. So this is basically what it is. So it's like let me use the keke and napep example again. So kekes have been banned in Kano. Why? Oh, the kidnappers, sorry, not kidnappers, causing them to be snatching phones. Then you ask, why are people even snatching phones in the first place? Because like, okay, keke napep is the most common means of transportation here in Kano. So as a result, and keke napeps are generally more open than cars or buses. So as a result, it's easier to snatch people's phones from inside the keke. So in comparison to maybe like Kaduna or Lagos or other places where like it's cars, like buses and taxis that are more like popular, you wouldn't have as much phone snatching in comparison. Do you understand? So instead of banning keke completely, another initiative could be instead. But they tried that and it did not work, and everybody just rushed it for a couple of weeks. So you could ask, so as you've gotten to the second question, why did they ban keke? Is because of this kind of crime. And why is this kind of crime prevalent? Is because of keke is the easiest means of transport, it's the most popular means of transportation in Kano. Then you now start asking, why is keke the most popular means of transportation in Kano? Because I know that when I came here the first time, I was very confused. Like, why are keke napeps everywhere? Like, keke napeps are literally more than cars in this place. Like, why are keke napeps everywhere? Like, this is not normal. This is not common. Then the next answer would be the reason why keke and peps are everywhere in Kano is because they banned bikes. They banned the commercial use of bikes, and buses are not as available. Then you now go and find out again, why did they ban the use of bikes? And probably people were having too much accidents and all and all and all. Then you will now actually be surprised. This is not the real situation. No, I'm just assuming. You can now be surprised that the root cause of all this problem of this phone snatching that made them ban bikes, was actually caused by the fact that they banned keke and peps, was actually caused by the fact that they banned bikes several years ago. So the people whose bikes were seized, or as they stopped riding bikes, they lost their sources of income, and the government did not compensate them. So now they cannot ride bike and they don't have money to buy keke. So what do they resort to? Crime. And that's why they started snatching phones. So now you can now be able to trace that the root of this problem that Kano is having of the whole phone snatching and everything can be traced back to one decision that one previous governor made, that we don't want bikes anymore in Kano, and there was no compensation, there was nothing, or even if there was compensation, the compensation was not good enough, so people had to resort to crime, because how would they eat? Do you understand? So this is an example of how to use the 5 whys technique. So, like I said, this is just an assumption of what the situation in Kano is. I don't have any real data to prove it. So I'm just using it as an example. So you can use the 5 whys technique in almost any industry at all. And you just keep asking why. It's just like that annoying child that comes to your house for Christmas or for Salah, one small child like this. Auntie, why are they doing this thing like this, like this, like this? And you answer the child, and the child comes back, and why are you, and why are you? It's so annoying. But children are generally very curious and they just want to know stuff. So the same thing when you're dealing with data, you need to ask why. You need to ask a lot of questions so that you could get to the root cause. Then the next is to prioritize relevance. To prioritize relevance, ensure your questions align with your objectives and the available data. Avoid getting lost in irrelevant details or pursuing tangents and that don't contribute to your decision-making process. Still on the keke example, last week was Chicken Republic, this week is keke. Please, I have to look for another example to use, but let's stick with this for now. You have to prioritize. So you cannot shift from we are banning this is the problem with keke and peps and how are we trying to solve it, to moving all the way to how are we going to stop almajiris on the road. These are good questions. They are both relevant, but you have to prioritize relevance on this type of questions, on this type of situations, right? Because like the petty crime you complain of might not directly be related to the small almajiri children on the road. At least from what I've heard, majority of people that snatch phones are usually like big people. First of all, like I said, these are just like assumptions, right? I usually like big people, I usually like adults, and this usually happens at night. And from my own observation, I haven't seen like a lot of like children at night begging, like almajiri children at night. It's mostly in the morning or in the afternoon. Usually at night, or like even at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you don't tend to see a lot of them around. So chances are it is not relevant to this particular situation. But let's even assume that it's relevant. You now bring something like how do we stop the crime that happens with keke, the phone snatching and everything? How do we reduce it? Then somebody just comes from nowhere and just says, oh, we can reduce it by stopping early marriage among young girls in Kano. And you're like, from where to where? You get like, it doesn't relate a lot as much. You could even say like the ones with like almajiri children probably relate a bit, but the one with like stopping child marriage is an entirely different subject. So you need to prioritize relevance. If you want to solve the keke problem, focus and solve it, and ask the right questions that would help you solve it. If you want to stop child marriage, focus on child marriage and ask the right questions that will also solve it. And the reason why this is also important is because you will not get your answer a lot of times. So for example, you have you're working with a company, um you're working with, let's say you're even working for Karuta. Very good. You're working for Karuta, and you want to investigate the keke issue and all of your team and all of that. Let's say, for example, like all the Karuta people just all of a sudden are like very posh and nice, and you want to find out like what's going on, da 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 da. And now you're not coming to ask the Karuta chairman, what do you think before? How was things before? Why did they ban keke? What time how has this impacted like other people's lives? You the Karota, you the Karota person, have you noticed that this thing has improved or not? Do you even notice whether people now listen to traffic regulations more? Or that 10 o'clock now that you said that is the time, people have coconut head in this canoe and they are still moving up and down. So you can ask the Karota chairman these questions and he'll probably have answers to give to you. But if you start asking him about questions like um, female abuse, early child marriage, early girl child marriage, and stuff, he probably wouldn't have the answers to this question. You probably need to ask like a body that is focused on like girl child sensitization, or any NGO or any government what do they even call themselves? Any government like department or ministry that's involved in like female and child marriage stuff. You wouldn't get that information from the character chairman. That's why it's important for you to prioritize relevance. Then the next is to incorporate multiple perspectives. Seek input from various stakeholders and subject matter experts. Different viewpoints can uncover hidden patterns or provide alternative interpretations of the data. So you want to seek multiple perspectives from people. So with the keke ban, you want to talk to the Karota chairman because he's up there. He will have a lot of information. You also want to talk to the Karota person that's holding sanda on the road and disturbing everybody. You want to talk to him and find out, man, talk to him like, guy, how far? How's everything? Like, have you noticed any change? Or are people complaining about it? Do you understand? So you want to talk to different people in that same line of work to find out what could actually be going on. So it's important to incorporate multiple perspectives. So now let me bring this to a more business and refined situation. So let's say, for example, you work for which company should I use as an example? I don't want to use Chicken Republic. My mind, that's where exactly where my mind is going to. So you work for a book company, a publishing company, and Nigerians, normal, they don't even like to read books. But then what could be your objective from the starting point? Your objective could be from the starting point should be, I want to publish a book. How do I make sure Nigerians that don't like reading read my book? Then now you start asking open-ended questions. You start asking people that are maybe like Nobel laureates. You can start asking like amazing people like Chimamanda and the likes. Ask them like, your book is a bestseller. How did it become a bestseller? What do you think makes your writing so unique? And then I could incorporate that for my work and for my book that I want to publish. And I also make sure not to ask leading questions. And then I also use the why technique. So I want my book to be a bestseller, but generally Nigerians don't like reading books. So we need to find out, why don't Nigerians like reading books in the first place? High illiteracy. So it's not their fault that they don't want to read books. It's that a lot of people in Nigeria cannot read in the first place. The ones that can read, why don't they read? Some of them are busy. Some of them don't care for it. Or some books are too big. What's the problem? You're seeing a book with 1,101 million pages. I don't get who's going to read that, and do you think I have your time? But like, you now discover that, or you find out that the reason why Nigerians don't like to read is because some books have big English. Have you ever carried Wole Soyinka's book? Your head will be headaching you. You get me? Unless for some of you that are like super intelligent, by the way. But like sometimes there's big unnecessary English. Like, what's going on? Like, that's absolutely unnecessary. So you could say, okay, because I've noticed all of this for my own book, I will probably write it in Hausa, because a lot of people in the north understand Hausa, they don't understand English as much. Instead of writing with big grammar, Dogon 20, if I want to go for an English book, I'll write small. Or I could put pictures in the book, because who doesn't like pictures in their books anyways, right? To make it fun, to make it nice. And I'll not make my book very big that people cannot read. I'll make it smaller, right? And make it accessible to people. And where can you put this? And where can you put these books in the right places? Then the next is to prioritize relevance. So I'm trying to publish a book. I should not go and be asking people how much is wrapper from Mudatex. It's not the same thing we're working with. Okay. Then the next is to incorporate multiple perspectives. So you need to ask questions from multiple people. So you can go high up and ask questions from bestsellers, and come as low as asking students in secondary schools, why don't you guys like reading? Or asking the tomatoes on your street, or why don't you people like reading books? Then they'll tell you things like, oh, I don't have the money to buy the book, right? Or students will tell you things like, oh, I only buy books that my school recommends, right? If my lecturer did not say I should buy the book, I'm not buying the book. So now you know that if you want to publish a book, you know that probably you have to do it through Ministry of Education, if you want to make a lot of like sales with your book, so that Ministry of Education can say, okay, let us make this book mandatory for all students, right? That way people will get to read your book. Otherwise, they might not just read your book, right? So this is not a sales tactics for anybody, by the way. But like these are just things you should do. And I'm just giving like an example from like a different perspective / industry. So that is business metrics and KPIs. So business metrics are quantifiable measures used to track and assess various aspects of a business's performance, while key performance indicators are a subset of business metrics. So like business metrics is the big one, KPIs are like the smaller one. And KPIs are a subset of business metrics that focus on specific goals and objectives and help monitor progress towards achieving them. So when they release your, let's say like secondary school results, business metrics is like your grade for each subject. I'm trying to say course, but like a secondary school we're using. So business metrics is like your grade for each course. You get an A, you get a B, da 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 da. But then KPIs, key performance indicators, focus on a specific goal and your objective towards them. A key performance indicator can be your average. So on average, probably you get like 83% this term. Next term, you get, so you know you've improved, you've gotten better. If your average now drops, you know that okay, you are doing a lot bad than you were last term. So that's what like business metrics are, and that's what key performance indicators are. So the next, we're going to be using we're going to be explaining some of the key performance indicators in different industries. So in a retail industry, buying and selling, maybe like Chanel, or the person that has a provision shop beside your house, or maybe like a big superstore like Wellcare, or the mall, or anything basically that deals with buying and selling, furniture, whatever. You could track things like sales, you could track revenue, you could track sales revenue, you could track profit, you could track customer acquisition costs, you could track inventory turnover and customer lifetime value. Then with the healthcare industry, you could check different things as well. You could track average length of stay. How long does a particular patient, how long do patients in general stay in your hospital before they get well? And if you discharge them from the hospital, how long do they stay discharged before they come back again because they are sick, right? Because and this is important, right? Because you don't want a situation where your doctors are quack doctors, so the patients don't stay long in the hospital, and then they'll just give them one injection, do one allura here, do one this one there, down, tell the patient to go home, and before you know, after 2 days, the patient is back because the patient does not know what's going on with his body, and the doctor, like with his result, is a very wicked person. Then, so these are things that are important to monitor. Then you could also check like patient wait time. How long does a patient wait before they get things? Like patient wait time is really important, like really important in cases like maybe like organ donors. So usually like for like big hospitals, they have like an average time that people have to wait before they can get like a donor for whatever organ they need to survive. Then next is recovery rates. How long does it take for people to recover? Then you have patient satisfaction score. Are your patients happy? Or is there one nurse that her hand is like iron, and if you put injection in your bum, you will not be able to sit down? So those things, right? You can track those things. Then next is technology industry. So with technology industry, you can monitor monthly recurring revenue, because like a lot of tech things require you to do subscriptions monthly. Like YouTube Music, Spotify, Netflix, all of those. So you need to know like how much money is coming in every single month. Then churn rate. Churn rate is the number of customers or users that leave. So how many customers do you have? How many have left? Then customer satisfaction score. This one, everybody knows this one. Please rate me 5 stars. Chicken. So that is something businesses also track. Then in the sports industry, for the boys that probably watch football and stuff, they also track things like ticket revenue, sponsorship revenue, players' performance. How is this player doing? How's this player not doing? Do we need to put this person in defense, or does he need to be a striker? Those kind of things are also important to know. Then fan engagement rates. You want to know like, are your fans watching your matches, or are you like Chelsea or Arsenal that's always breaking everybody's hearts, so nobody wants to watch your matches again? Because the amount of people that watch your matches also like determines how much you would end up generating in revenue. Then table ranking as well. You don't want to be at the bottom on the Champions League table. Excuse me. You want to be doing well, and then that's when you now see people that can quote statistics of rankings in 18 something. That was the last time that Chelsea ever won Champions League Cup. They know all the details, every single detail. But ask them what their lecturer told them last week. They cannot remember. Even the assignment that they're supposed to do, they forgot. But yeah, anything sports history, they know it. They have marked it in their head. So although you might not be using it for anything important, but other people do, right? You could hear like commentators do, they say all these things a lot. Even like the managers and the coaches also use these things to determine like how well the team is performing. Were they better than last season, or are they worse than last season? What happened? Is it the new manager that they hired that is doing in here, or there's a new player that they bought and the player is just scratching everywhere? Side eye to Ronaldo, by the way. Moving on. So now there are real world case scenarios. I've already given examples of a few, but one real world case scenario for like for a retail industry is marketing campaign for Fenty. Fenty is owned by Rihanna and stuff. For those of you that are huge fans, Rihanna basically like performed at the Super Bowl, and Fenty profits and like revenue just skyrocketed because of like the red lipstick that she used for her Super Bowl performance. And like a lot of people were like in love with the red. It was deemed at that time to be like the perfect shade of red. I don't know now about now, because everybody's shade is different anyways, but like people like that is the perfect shade of red. And because of the Super Bowl performance, they were able to They were able to say, okay, our profits has increased by XYZ percentage, revenue increased by XYZ percentage. And how do we now do a marketing campaign? And I'm sure Fenty did this marketing campaign they way before Rihanna like performed at the Super Bowl. So for example, there was an ad on, I'm not sure how many of you are really into makeup stuff though, but like there was an ad on Instagram on how like the balls that were supposed to be used for Super Bowl, like Fenty Beauty was basically like changing the colors of the balls rather, changing the colors of the balls with their foundation colors. So it was now like showing like the range of foundation colors they had. And that's one thing like Fenty is known for. They have like a ton of foundation colors. So we're now changing the colors of the balls to show that they have different foundation colors for light skinned people. So for white people, for Caucasians, for blacks, different, whatever your shade is, you can find it with Fenty. So there was a lot of thought and analysis that went into that before they had a marketing campaign. So this is an example of using data to make real world decisions. So for a marketing campaign, for example, in this case, for Fenty. So the second example in the health sector now is clinical staff reevaluation at EHA clinics. So a lot of you are in BUK, so you probably already know EHA clinics. So for example, they just hired a new doctor, and all of a sudden they found out that readmission rate is increasing. The number of people that are dying in the hospital are increasing. Ashe, this doctor is a quack. Like the certificate, fake, 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 fake. Everything is fake. So now you have to do a clinical staff reevaluation to find out that, okay, why are people dying all of a sudden in the hospital? People don't die at this number before. What happened? So you can now find out, oh, there was a cholera outbreak. That was what caused it. Or you find out that, like I said before, is one apprentice doctor that people hired. People would not know that the doctor was not a good doctor. Or you find out that the nurses are actually tired. Nurses are actually tired and you're probably understaffed. Right? There's not enough people working. So as a result of that, patients do not have enough attention. By the way, side eye to GT Bank, because GT Bank always has 1,000,001 customers, but they never have enough people attending. It's not that they don't know. Those people know. I'm very sure deep in their hearts, they know that they have plenty of customers, but like they just want to suffer people. And they also want to make like crazy profits. That is why they're not hiring more staff, because this is something that a staff reevaluation with data would have been able to check, right? How many customers do you have to one staff? Same thing, the way even like the World Health Organization monitors like how many doctors or how many nurses do you have to one patient. In more modern worlds, you have about 100 patients to see. But in third world countries, you have like 1,000 patients to a single doctor. The kind of care that a doctor that has 1,000 patients to treat in a month is not the same that somebody that has one to treat 100 patients to treat in a month. Same thing with your courses. The less courses you have, chances are the better you perform. If you're doing 15 subjects, I'm not going to call the name of the university. If you're doing 15 courses in a particular semester, what? Why? 101 million borrowed courses. Borrowing from where to where? I don't get it. So but let's go back to the point. The point is you could use clinical staff reevaluation in the health industry. Then the third, which is in technology industry, it could be like a periodic business report for Jumia. So sometimes sometimes nothing abnormal is happening, right? Like in the clinical example, something abnormal was happening, so you had to investigate the data. But now in this situation, nothing is abnormal that's happening with Jumia. They just want, at the end of every month, how much money do we make? How many people patronize us? How many people patronize us by state? So do we have more people in Kaduna, Abuja, or Lagos, like that? They just want a periodic business report. Nothing strange is happening. They just want to know what the report looks like, what the numbers look like at the end of the month. Then the fourth one is end of season report. So end of season report is usually for, this is like in the sports industry. So we could use football as well. So at the end of the season, there's an analyst that compiles like all the reports and says, okay, this is what has gone on this season, and as a result, I think we should buy XYZ player because he seems like he will be a perfect fit since our defense is weak. He's a great defender and he'll be good for us, right? Or this manager, his head is not correct. Let's sack him. At the end of this season, let's sack him, let him pack his load and go and leave us alone so that our team can be better. The manager is our problem. Is everybody's problem. Or the coach. The coach is very wicked. He doesn't train them properly, or he has pot belly or something. Do you get? Pot belly is a very random reason to sack someone though. But like these are things you could find at the end of the season reports for sports industry. So finally, again, I leave you guys with the amazing quotes of "In God we trust, everyone else bring data." So thank you. This is the end of today's class. And I hope you learned a lot. I hope you learned more on how to ask questions and the kind of matrices and things, matrices in key performance indicators that you should look out for based on industries. And at the end of this, there's also like an assignment. Okay. But before the assignment, I want you guys to ask questions. If you have any question based on whatever I've said so far, you could just say it quickly. Thank you. So if you have a question, you could just drop it in. You just drop it in the chat. And yeah, Ademola, I'm just seeing your chat and we actually can't hear you. I think there were little times when we heard you like talking to someone else. But other than that, like we couldn't hear your own actual voice. Hopefully you can unmute your mic now and try. Maybe you can hear us.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, the when you were mentioning the business metrics, I think my network kind of like went off, so I didn't really get everything. Like the business metrics, I heard you mentioned KPI, the key performance indicator. It's like a sub, like under the business metrics, or it's a different thing.
That's pretty much what it is. It's just like under it.
Like that's the only one under other metrics,
So
I
basically for the
guess.
most part, they are, so this is how I explained it previously. So business metrics is like the general indicator of performance. Then a KPI is you tracking your performance towards a particular goal, right? So this is the difference. So for business metrics now, if you have your results, secondary school results for each subject, in math you have an A, English B, da 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 da. Then your grade, the ABC, is like your business metric in this situation. It shows you the general performance of how everything is going. But then the key performance indicator shows it towards a particular goal. So your goal in this, your KPI in your school results setting is the average. So your average now, let's say you have 83% as your average. That means you should have tried. But next term, you now have like 90%. So you know that you've improved. You have like track record to show that, oh, I've improved, right? Because your goal is 100%. Well, that's technically not possible, especially with Nigerian institutions that they believe that 100% belongs to only God. But moving on. So the 100%, so your goal is towards 100%, or your goal is to get better. Then the next term after you got 90%, you now end up getting 70 something percent. So you know something is badly wrong, Right. So that is just like the difference between like the business metric and KPI.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, so now I would just quickly say what our assignment is. I'll probably still type it as well in the WhatsApp group for others that are not around. So this is your assignment. So your assignment is to pick a pick an industry that I didn't pick, that I've not mentioned before previously in my slides. There are plenty of industries in the world. Look for an industry and find out the key performance indicators in that particular industry. Then, after you find out the key performance indicators in that industry, then find out what kind of questions can you ask about the data. So, for example, in the health industry, there's different key performance indicators, and we've mentioned them, we've gone over them. So one question you can ask is, how can this hospital increase its customers? So now this is a tricky question, right? Especially in the health sector, because you don't want to give people poison that will make them sick and be coming to your hospital. You don't want that. And you also don't want a situation where you're treating people and they're not getting well, because if they're not getting well, then that means they would have to leave your hospital. So it's a tricky question. So you can ask yourself, like, how do we get more clients? How do we get more customers in the health sector? That's a question to answer. So that is what you do for any industry: shoe industry, bag industry, whichever industry you feel like. Even the road that was probably disturbing you, Bashira, you can also think of something along that line. That's if you want to, right? So that's just the thing. Pick an industry, write down the key performance indicators in that industry, and pick one question that you can ask in that industry. A question that would drive people to action, right? A question that would drive people to action based on the key performance indicators that you've mentioned. So yeah, I hope that clarifies everything. And the assignment's basically like you should submit it before the next class. That's just it. So that is all for now. I don't think there's any more questions. So this was nice. It was nice having this class, although some, like, a couple of people had like issues with speaking. Well, hopefully we can all play like the recording again and everything would go smoothly. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. So next week we will get to do something really, really exciting. And if you've looked at the drive that Rashida created, you can already know what we're having next week. So I'm excited. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.